Ladies and gentlemen, when you are facing challenges and feeling overwhelmed, it's easy to forget that there is a force greater than yourself that is always at work on your behalf. I want you to understand today that no matter what circumstances you find yourself in, no matter how impossible the situation may seem, God will make a way for you. In life, there are moments when we come up against walls. We experience hardships, disappointments, and setbacks. But here's the truth: the very walls that seem to limit you are the same ones that God can use to demonstrate His power. He specializes in turning your impossible into possible. He can open doors where there were none, make paths in deserts, and bring light into your darkest moments. Life is full of challenges, and often when we face them, we see them as obstacles, roadblocks that stand in the way of our progress. We feel defeated, frustrated, and sometimes even lost. But what if the very challenges we face are not there to break us, but to build us? What if these challenges, instead of being stumbling blocks, are actually stepping stones that God can use to elevate us to greater heights? This is where the transformation happens. When you look at the Bible, you see time and again how God used difficult situations to bring about His greater purpose. Think about Joseph, who was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison. From the outside, it seemed like everything in his life was falling apart. But in the midst of those challenges, God was at work. Those same trials were the very things that prepared Joseph for the position of leadership that he would eventually hold. His journey, painful as it was, opened doors and opportunities that he never could have imagined. When we face hardships, we often cannot see the end result. We only see the pain, the frustration, the confusion. But God, in His infinite wisdom, is able to see the bigger picture. He knows how to use the struggles we face to refine our character, to strengthen our faith, and to prepare us for what lies ahead. The difficulty you are experiencing today is not the end of your story. It's a part of the process that will bring you to a place of greater strength and purpose. Many times, the challenges we encounter force us to rely on God in ways that comfort and ease never could. It's when we are stretched beyond our limits, when everything seems uncertain, that we learn to trust God more fully. It's in those moments of struggle that we discover not only the depth of God's provision, but the depth of His love for us. The hardships we endure shape us, mold us, and equip us with the tools we need for the next phase of our journey. God has the power to take every setback and use it to position us for success. What we view as a detour or delay might actually be a divine redirection, leading us to the very place we need to be in order to fulfill our destiny. Just like gold must go through the fire to be purified, we too must sometimes go through the fire of challenges to become refined, strong, and ready for the purpose God has planned for us. The truth is that God does not waste anything. Not your pain, not your tears, not your struggles. He can turn every challenge into an opportunity for growth, transformation, and blessing. When you face difficulties, rather than asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is God trying to teach me through this?" Understand that in the midst of every trial, God is working to turn your challenges into something far greater than you could ever imagine. God's timing and ways are often far different from our own, and this is something we must come to accept as we walk through life. We are naturally inclined to want things to happen quickly, to have immediate answers, and to see the results of our hard work right away. We often operate on our own schedules, making plans and setting timelines, believing that the sooner something happens, the better. However, God's perspective is not bound by time in the way ours is. He operates in a realm where time is simply a tool He uses, not a constraint. When we face delays or things don't unfold according to our plans, it can be difficult to understand. We wonder why prayers seem unanswered or why the desires of our hearts are delayed. But God, in His wisdom, sees far beyond our immediate needs and wants. His timing is always perfect, even when it feels like we're waiting for something that will never come. While we may feel impatient, anxious, or confused, we must trust that God's delays are not denials. His timing is always right, even if we don't understand it at the moment. God's ways are not just about when things happen, but also how they unfold. We often want the straight and easy path, but God knows that the winding road, the bumps, and the detours are often necessary for our growth. The process that He takes us through is intentional, designed to develop us into the people He has called us to be. When we look back at the paths we've walked, we realize that the detours, though frustrating at the time, often brought us closer to our true purpose. Think about the story of the Israelites in the wilderness. God didn't lead them through the quickest or easiest route to the promised land. Instead, He took them through a journey that tested their faith, patience, and obedience. It was not the fastest or most direct route, but it was the route that would teach them the lessons they needed in order to truly inhabit the land He had promised them. God's ways often lead us through challenges and valleys, but those are the very places where our faith is refined and where we learn to trust Him more deeply. God is not limited by our human understanding of time. He sees the beginning from the end, and He knows the exact moment when everything will fall into place. While we often try to hurry things along, God knows that His perfect plan requires the right timing. The timing of His answer, the timing of our promotion, the timing of the breakthrough is all in His hands, and we can trust that He is orchestrating every moment with purpose. It is in His perfect timing that everything aligns, and what we thought was a delay turns out to be the exact moment we were meant to receive our blessing. When things don't go according to our plans, when we feel like we're waiting for something that feels unreachable, it is in those moments that we must learn to trust in God's greater plan. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. While we may never fully comprehend why certain things happen the way they do, we can trust that He is at work, and that His timing and methods are always for our good. He will never lead us astray, and in His time we will see the fruits of His perfect plan. God's provision is not bound by the limits we often place on it. As human beings, we naturally look at our circumstances and the resources available to us, measuring everything through the lens of what we can see and touch. But we calculate how much money we have, how much time is left, and how much energy we can muster. When things seem scarce, we become anxious, thinking that there is not enough to meet our needs. But the reality is that God's provision operates in a realm that goes far beyond our understanding of what is possible. God's provision is not limited by our resources. It is not confined to the job you have, the salary you earn, or the connections you make. These things may be part of how God chooses to provide, but they are not the source of your provision. God is the source. He has unlimited resources at His disposal, and He knows exactly what you need even before you ask for it. In the moments when you feel like you are running out of options, God can open doors that you didn't even know existed. He can bring opportunities into your life in unexpected ways, from places you never imagined. When we look at the Bible, we see countless examples of God's provision in times of scarcity. Consider the story of the widow in the Old Testament, who was down to her last meal and expected to die from famine. But through the prophet Elijah, God provided an endless supply of flour and oil until the famine ended. Or look at the Israelites in the wilderness, who had no food, yet God provided manna from heaven every day. Even when they complained, even when they doubted, God's provision was constant and never ran out. His provision was not dependent on the circumstances around them, but on His faithfulness and ability to provide in ways that were beyond human comprehension. When we experience lack in our lives, it can be easy to forget that God's provision is not limited to what we see. It is important to remember that God's economy is not like the world's economy. He does not work by the rules of scarcity. His resources are infinite, and when He provides, it is not just enough, but abundant. This is why Jesus taught that we should not worry about what we will eat, drink, or wear, because our Heavenly Father knows our needs and will provide for us. The key is to trust that God's provision will come in His perfect timing in ways that we may not always expect, but that will be more than sufficient to meet our needs. God's provision also comes in many forms. It is not just about material resources, but about wisdom, strength, peace, and favor. Sometimes what we need most is not money or material possessions, but the wisdom to navigate a situation or the strength to endure a challenge. God knows exactly what we need, and He will provide what is necessary for us to thrive in every area of life. This provision is not only for our own benefit, but also for the benefit of others. When God blesses us, it is not just for us to hoard, but to share with those around us, to be a conduit of His provision to others. What we must remember is that God's provision is not just about meeting our immediate needs. It is a reflection of His love, faithfulness, and care for us. He knows what we need even before we ask, and He is always working behind the scenes to ensure that His children are taken care of. His provision is not just for survival, it is for abundance, for flourishing, and for fulfilling the purposes He has set for our lives. When we trust in God's provision, we are acknowledging that He is the ultimate source of all we have, and that He will always supply what we need, no matter the circumstance. In life, we often tie our sense of worth to the circumstances we find ourselves in. When things are going well, when we experience success, happiness, and ease, it's easy to feel confident and valuable. But when challenges arise, when things fall apart, we can mistakenly believe that our worth has diminished, that our struggles somehow define us. It's natural to equate the hardships we face with our value, but we must understand that challenges are not a reflection of who we are or what we are worth. Every individual goes through difficulties, regardless of their position in life, their status, or their abilities. Challenges, setbacks, and obstacles are a part of the human experience. They do not single out a person based on their worth or value. The fact that you encounter struggles does not mean that you are any less worthy of love, success, or happiness. It simply means that you are human. We all face seasons of hardship, but those seasons are temporary and do not determine who we are. The belief that our worth is linked to our circumstances is a lie that can trap us in a cycle of self-doubt and discouragement. When we face difficulties, we often internalize them, thinking that we somehow deserve the hardship or that it's a punishment for something we did wrong. But God does not measure our worth by the trials we endure. He sees us as His beloved creations, fearfully and wonderfully made. His love for us is not based on our performance or our ability to overcome every challenge perfectly. His love is unconditional, and it remains constant through every season of life. The people we admire, the great leaders, the successful individuals, many of them have faced significant struggles and obstacles. Their worth wasn't determined by their failures or the challenges they faced, but by their ability to persevere, to rise above their circumstances, and to remain true to their purpose. We often only see the end result, the victory, the success. But behind every triumph is a story of struggle, perseverance, and faith. Their challenges didn't diminish their worth, they proved their resilience, their determination, and their capacity to overcome. When you're going through a difficult time, it's important to remind yourself that your worth is not tied to your success or your failure. You are valuable, not because of what you've accomplished or because of the challenges you faced, but because you are a child of God, created in His image. Your worth is intrinsic, it doesn't fluctuate with the seasons of life. Your worth is a reflection of who God says you are, not of the circumstances you face. Moreover, it's essential to recognize that challenges can actually reveal our true worth. It's during times of difficulty that we often discover inner strength, resilience, and determination that we didn't know we had. Struggles can refine us, teach us valuable lessons, and help us grow in ways that comfort and ease never could. We emerge from challenges stronger, wiser, and more capable of fulfilling the purpose we were created for. Rather than seeing challenges as something that diminishes us, we should see them as opportunities for growth, as moments that refine our character and deepen our understanding of who we are. When you're facing a challenge, remember that your worth is secure, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are. You are worthy of love, success, and happiness, no matter what obstacles you face. Your value does not diminish in times of hardship. In fact, how you navigate those challenges, how you rely on faith, how you persevere, how you continue to trust in your purpose is a testament to the strength and worth that is already inside of you. Trusting in God's plan requires a level of faith that often goes beyond our immediate understanding. Life is full of uncertainties, and it's easy to feel like we need to control every detail, to plan and predict what's coming next. We want the answers now, we want the steps clearly laid out in front of us, and we want to know exactly how everything will unfold. But God's plan doesn't always work that way. His ways are higher than ours, His thoughts are deeper than ours, and often He calls us to trust without seeing the full picture. Faith is about believing in the unseen, stepping out into the unknown with confidence that God is guiding you, even when the road ahead seems unclear. It's trusting that God knows exactly what He's doing, even when we don't understand the twists and turns life may take. It's acknowledging that His plan is greater than ours, even when it feels like we are walking through darkness. God's plan is not bound by the limitations of time or human understanding. He sees the whole picture while we only see a small part. Trusting in God's plan means surrendering our need to control everything and allowing Him to lead us in His perfect timing. One of the greatest tests of faith is when things don't go the way we expect. We make plans, we set goals, and we envision how things should unfold. But life rarely goes according to our script. And in those moments of disappointment or confusion, we are faced with a choice to trust God or to give in to doubt and fear. Trusting in God's plan means accepting that our understanding is limited and that sometimes delays and detours are part of the process. The challenges and setbacks we face may feel like detours, but they are often part of God's greater design. What we see as a delay may be God's perfect timing at work, preparing us for something greater than we could ever imagine. Faith in God's plan is not just about waiting passively for things to happen. It's an active choice to believe that God is at work, even when we don't see immediate results. It's choosing to take each step forward, trusting that He will provide the guidance and strength we need for each new day. Trust means not relying on our own understanding or trying to force things to happen in our own way. It means surrendering our will to His and allowing Him to direct our path. The more we lean into God's plan, the more we see that His timing is always perfect, even when it feels inconvenient. We may not always get what we want, but we will always get what we need. Sometimes God closes doors because He has something better in mind. Sometimes He allows us to face challenges because they are shaping us into the person we need to become to fulfill His purpose. Trusting in God's plan means understanding that His perspective is broader than ours. What seems like a setback or a disappointment might actually be God positioning us for something far greater. It can be hard to trust in God's plan when life doesn't make sense. It's easy to trust when everything is going well, but true faith is tested when we are in the middle of trials. It is during those moments that we have the opportunity to truly depend on God, to let go of our need for control, and to trust that He is working all things together for our good. Trusting God's plan does not mean that we will not experience pain or confusion. It means that even in the midst of those difficulties, we can have peace, knowing that God is with us, guiding us, and preparing us for what's ahead. When we trust in God's plan, we are affirming that He is the author of our story, and we are choosing to believe that He knows the best way forward. It requires patience, faith, and surrender, but the reward is worth it. As we walk in faith, step by step, we begin to see how God's plan unfolds in ways that we never could have orchestrated on our own. His plan is always better than anything we could have imagined. His wisdom, love, and understanding surpass anything we could ever comprehend. And when we trust Him fully, we experience the peace that comes from knowing that we are walking in His perfect will. In conclusion, as we navigate the challenges and uncertainties of life, it's essential to remember that God's plan for us is far greater than anything we can understand or anticipate. His provision is limitless, His timing perfect, and His ways often beyond our comprehension. While we may face difficulties, setbacks, or moments of doubt, we must trust that these challenges are not a reflection of our worth, but opportunities for growth, transformation, and deeper faith. By placing our trust in God, knowing that He is always at work on our behalf, we can walk confidently through every trial, secure in the knowledge that He will make a way for us. With faith, patience, and trust, we align ourselves with His divine purpose, experiencing His guidance, peace, and provision every step of the way.